Our panel's called Smart TV or Dumb TV. And I made up the name of the panel because I love this topic, and I think it's a fun. We live in a very, very fun time at the cross section of TV and technology and futurism, which isn't a word, but it sounds good. I'm Jeremy Toman. I'm CEO of a company called Digit. We make an app for iPads and a platform for other platforms called Next Guide. It's a TV discovery platform designed to help people find what to watch on live and streaming services. It has social and real-time other engagement features. And I have a long experience in the space, including companies like Sling Media, Boxy, Clicker, Voodoo, Rovi, Mediabolic, and others. And I'll be hosting our session with three great speakers who bring three completely different viewpoints to this discussion, which I think should be really, really interesting. I'm not sure we'll necessarily mix it up so much, but I think we'll hear some really good perspectives on real world, what's working and what's not working in kind of this smart TV interactive landscape. So I'm going to ask each person to introduce themselves and share one thing so far, what their company or they themselves have learned about the smart TV space so far. So Chuck, why don't you kick us off?
Sure, thanks. My name's Chuck Cyber. I work at Roku. I'm VP of Marketing. Any of you own a Roku? That's not bad. Thank you. Excellent. I have an LG TV too. Great. So,
do you subscribe to DirecTV?
I do actually.
Trifecta.
Amazing.
We're going to give a group hug at the end.
So for those of you who don't know, Roku is we're known for making a little box that connects to your television and streams entertainment from the internet to your TV. We were spun out of Netflix. We've kind of gone our separate ways at this point, and at this point we have over 600 apps. We call them channels, which are available on our box. We've sold over 3 million boxes so far, and recently we announced a product called the Streaming Stick, which is all the capabilities of our box, but in this little kind of USB-sized stick, and it connects to MHL ports on televisions like LG's and a number of other manufacturers. And this is what we're proposing as an alternative to a fully embedded connected television solution. A TV manufacturer could choose to make a product with this MHL port, and then you can put in a stick like this, and it'll give you the Roku experience effectively built in.
And one anecdote, observation, thing you've learned along the way.
Yeah, I joined almost 4 years ago, and back then there were the couple of services that we had on our box, like Amazon and Netflix, and we were just launching Major League Baseball, and there was all this excitement about all the stuff that could become available as streaming services, and 3.5, almost 4 years later, a lot has happened, but it still feels like we're really scratching the surface in terms of the potential of streaming platforms on television. There's a lot of things people love about the experience, but it's hard to change people's behavior. As it turns out, people are pretty comfortable watching TV a certain way, and very established behavior, and it's pretty hard to change that. So I guess it always surprises me how slow that change happens.
Sorry. I had no way to not sneeze into my mic. I took an Allegra a little bit ago, so hopefully that'll kick in.
Anyway.
But you're awake, huh? Dave.
So I'm David Schlopt. I work at DirecTV here in Los Angeles. I have a couple of different roles. One of them is looking at technology, new services, startups and stuff that we can partner with in many different shapes and forms, whether I'm part of the engineering group, but I'm more of a liaison with our business development group. One of the things I manage is this Chef Partner program, where we allow certain partners access to our set-top boxes. All of DirecTV's high-definition boxes have been shipped for the last 4 years, probably close to 10 million boxes, have an API that you can control them just like a remote control can. You can know what channel they're tuned to, and in some cases get access to the playlist and other high-level commands. And the third thing that I do on a day-to-day basis, as part of a small innovation group, where we go out, a bunch of us went up to Stanford to a design boot camp, and we've been going out visiting customers basically on a monthly basis, following around the DirecTV trucks literally and knocking on people's doors and finding what people like, what they don't like, and how we can create better products and services to serve the customers' real needs. I also have a liaison to like MIT, USC, different media labs and stuff, so we're definitely out there and looking at everything that's going on and trying to find out the best way to move forward because the world's changing and we've got to stay on top of it. As far as, my experience with smart TV, I think up until now, all the products that I've seen, and maybe, this year's crop will be better, is there hasn't been a consistent UI across, you go into whether it was Google TV's first generation, or it worked differently in different parts of the application. From a user perspective, TV is a laid-back thing. People want to watch TV as much as possible and not spend time searching, looking, whatever, unless they have to. And so far, I haven't found a smart TV that actually understands me or is really smart. You've got connected TVs out there, but I think some of the intelligence is still missing.
That's a nice little softball for you there, Kurt.
All right. So, hello, my name is Kurt Hoppe, Director of Smart TV Innovation at LG. So really our team, based out of San Jose, focuses on two things. One is technology features. So what do we want to put into our next generation televisions or 2 years from now? That could be something to make it more simple for the lean-back experience, like related to the user experience, like voice recognition or gestures or a great magic remote control. The other thing we do is we focus on services. So whether that's working with pay TV services, which are the most common service used on a TV, or cloud-based services, or just how to reach content around your home. So that's kind of, we've got a team that focuses on different areas. I think one anecdote we've noticed so far, and LG we launched Smart TV last year, so 18 months ago, so it's pretty early days. But we've noticed that the consumers have very quickly become aware of this feature. Last year they went into Best Buy. Number one reason they went to buy a TV was because of the form factor. They wanted a thin LED, low energy kind of TV. 3D was actually interesting to them. Some kinds of 3D are different or better than others. And connected was really third on the list. But now we know that consumers are saying 6 out of 10 consumers say that the next TV they buy will be a smart TV. They've already decided that. So that's we've seen the consumers are aware now.
Hey, Kurt, what percentage of the TVs you ship are, if you're allowed to disclose?
So we don't announce the numbers shipped. So
let me rephrase the question.
Okay.
Let me make it easier. What percentage of models that you build are connected models?
That's a good question. So last year, first year was, so LG specifically, last year was about 35% of the TVs, of all the SKUs, were smart TVs. This year, 2012, is up to 60%, and it's trending higher. And so within 5 years, it'll be 90% of TVs will be smart TVs.
Got it. And I'm just coming back to a similar question. So, David, of your DVRs or high-def set-top boxes, what percentage of those have some version of an IP control stack in them? In other words, can be controlled either over a Wi-Fi connection or over the internet?
So today it's not over the internet, it's over Wi-Fi within the home. We can send command over satellite, and obviously in the future we'll be able to have full two-way control. Again, somewhere around 10 million boxes, again, are capable of it, and a smaller number obviously are actually connected. The main difference is DirecTV's business. Again, don't quote me the exact numbers, but we lose about 3 million customers a year. We gain around 4 million customers a year, roughly, and that translates into about 14 million new set-top boxes every year that we put in people's homes. And for the last year and a half, all those boxes have MoCA, Ethernet, coax networking, and our installers are going in proactively and hooking those boxes up to each other and to the internet. So you can watch TV in different rooms, and I think that's also an opportunity. One thing missing in the TVs today is they don't really know what you're watching. There are a bunch of startups working on recognition software, but if I know I'm talking to an LG set, I can tell him what program is on and maybe leverage some of his processing power or his gesture, his remote control to do things. Today, they're two siloed things, and the customer's got to have two remotes in his hands, unless he just wants to change the volume, which our remote will change the volume and change channels, but will not control the rest of the TV.
But David, just to make sure I'm clear on the question, so if I'm not mistaken, all of your DVRs
all our HD DVRs.
All your HD DVRs can be internet. You can go to the DirecTV.com website and say, go record this.
Now that you can do on all our boxes because we send that signal actually over the satellite.
Okay.
So even the older boxes, you can set a recording.
That's what I thought. Okay.
But to download, watch YouTube is only the newer HD boxes.
And Chuck, just to give us a bearing, again, only, and for the record, obviously if you want to make this your panel to disclose something that no one in the world's ever heard before, we'll all take it. But what is the current disclosed number of Rokus that are out there?
Well, as of first quarter of this year, we had sold 3 million boxes total.
Not in the first quarter.
As of the first quarter, at the end of the first quarter of this year. So,
word on the street is you guys are doing. Word on the street is you guys are doing well.
Yeah,
Obviously, what I hear is they're doing better than that.
Our year-over-year growth rate is terrific. Seems to be a lot of interest.
Got it. So, I actually like to start this panel. I'm going to give a quick definition of TV for a second. I just want to hear a panelist's reaction to it. So, my definition of TV is that it's not specifically an entertainment experience, which is a common one. My definition of TV is that it's an escape experience. And for the average household that watches 4 to 8 hours of TV a night, they do that specifically to get out of their lives for a second, whether it's watching what I call train wreck television, otherwise known as reality TV, or scripted, immersive content. It's a way of saying, turn off this. I don't want to think about my dad or my kids or my job or whatever it is that's making me unhappy at this moment. I want to go out there for a second. And obviously in this smart, interactive world, there's a little bit of a contradiction. So guys, starting with you, Kurt, maybe working backwards for a sec, quick reaction to that as concept, change my definition, if you will, and then we'll keep moving forward from there.
So I generally agree with your definition. Most people, maybe not on the coasts, but the majority of people in this country, when they sit down in front of their TV, they don't know what they're going to watch. They've had a rough day. They want the lean-back experience. They just want to channel surf. And it used to be easy because there were 10 channels or 20. Now there's hundreds or thousands or millions. So the channel surfing might not scale. Then we get back to the recommendation problem. How do you discover content? And if it could be, when you do your channel surfing, if those 20 channels you surf through are relevant to you, that would be better than going off to reality TV when you want to watch sports.
David, any modifications to that statement?
Well, again, I think a lot of people still use TV as a background, or whether it's senior citizens just have the TV on the background. They want to feel somebody's home when they come home in the evening. We've seen people like that. We've visited here. It's also a social experience, and my family will sit down with the kids and watch a movie on Saturday night. I think that still holds true. We don't watch American Idol, but I'm sure a lot of families sit down and watch those kind of shows that are more family-centric, and it brings the family together like it was back in the 50s and 60s. It's so that you can remember it.
So we think of the TV experience as being purposeful in the sense that for most of our customers, now, there are some exceptions. Of course, there are times when you just want something on in the background. Actually, the most common thing that happens with our customers when they want something in the background is they put on Pandora. But as far as watching television, I think there's a strong sense that one of the benefits of streaming is you can theoretically find what you want to watch, and if it's something you chose beforehand as opposed to stumbled upon, then you're more likely to watch it through, and you're going to feel like whether it's a good movie or a bad movie, it was your choice, so it was better than perhaps the alternative.
All right. So in our last panel, almost half the audience was in some way connected to the content industry. Just a quick level set here. If you work either in content production, content distribution, something about content itself, give a little, raise your hand for a sec. All right. If you are in the technology side of the world, raise your hand. All right. Did I miss a big category that someone wants to identify? Feeling good? All right, cool. So especially thinking of the content, we're here where all the content, lots of content's made in this city. So one of the concerns I see in the smart TV box, et cetera, landscape is fragmentation, right? So Kurt, you're on your third generation now, or I'm assuming in the labs is your third generation of platform.
Yeah, CES will show you the third generation.
Right. So if you, from both you and Chuck, how do you get people over this hurdle of, okay, I have to build a new app, I have to build a new thing, and 18 months from now, there's going to be a new LG set, a new Vizio set, a new Sony set, a new Samsung set. Is that a hurdle? Is it not really a big deal? You sell enough units, so it doesn't really matter. Where's this fitting for both you guys?
Is that a question for
both you and Chuck?
Either of us.
We'll take
it. So I think the content owners and the developer community, that's a very important area that LG wants to support. We know that most developers will only develop for, let's say, 2 platforms.
Right.
And so one way we're trying to facilitate that is making the sets backwards compatible as much as possible. So the Netflix app that worked last year still works this year. That's why we promote and encourage directionally, towards HTML5 and open web technologies. Also, we started something called, with some other major manufacturers, something called the Smart TV Alliance that we announced. So that's basically a common web SDK that the developer or the content owner can develop your app. It runs on LG. It's an open invite to any manufacturer to join. Sharp, Toshiba, Philips, and LG are the TV manufacturers that have joined so far, but it's open to smart TV boxes as well. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Are you seeing fragmentation as an issue?
Well, so I think one of the similar experiences that we have to LG is the content partners that we work with, especially the bigger studios. So I'll give HBO as an example. You know, there seems to be a retraction from the original idea, which was pushed by Netflix and Hulu and a few other services, where the goal was to get on as many platforms as quickly as possible, go for ubiquity. And there's been this retraction where they're picking a couple of leading platforms, and they, you know, you choose a dominant game console, choose a dominant Blu-ray/television manufacturer, and then choose a set-top box manufacturer. And each one, you know, maybe appeals to a slightly different audience. And so, you know, we obviously try to be included, you know, when companies like HBO make that choice. But it's you know, we have our own development environment, and we do support certain common languages like HTML5, but we certainly encourage people to use the tools that we have at our disposal, and we try to make them as simple as possible so that you know, developing on our platform is not that big of a deal.
Got it. To someone on AV, the computer seems to have gone off. It wasn't doing much, but JFYI. Okay.
Just one comment. That's one of the things as DirecTV, we spend a lot of time in engineer hours porting things to, you know, 15 or 20 different set-top boxes. I was at a conference 2 weeks ago here in LA where who's on a panel here, Joe from Major League Baseball, had a slide showing there are 2,600 different versions of Android out there between phones and tablets with all the different variations, and they support all of those. But they're probably the only company in the world that can afford to support all those different platforms. So it's a challenge. On one hand, Roku wants to differentiate themselves from LG and DirecTV, et cetera. But on the other hand, as a content provider, you just want to develop your app once and have it work and fit into the environment that it's on. It's not enough that the content just plays. It's got to also be navigatable and findable through that platform.
I've heard, by the way, that Netflix exists on over 500 distinct platforms, and each one was an independent. I mean, some porting, but obviously some disparate efforts there. So Dave, I want to stay with you for a second. So since the boxes you make, you obviously have a very different type of relationship with your customers than Kurt and Chuck do. When you guys assess new features to build into a set-top box, tell us a little bit about how do you think about the world? How, you know, one of the, you know, as Chuck said, one of the coolest things about a Roku, for example, is throw on Pandora, right? And boom, there it goes. And I know music's obviously in that category of important stuff. So how do you guys look at technologies, platforms, features, and figure out what's box worthy?
So again, there's software and there's hardware. When we look at hardware, again, I said before, we ship around 14 million new boxes. So if something costs $5 a box, that's $70 million. You've got to justify it. If you have a USB port you can take out of every box and save 50 cents or $1. You're going to do that unless you can find a reason why you need that USB port. In some cases, you know, it's built into the chip. It's 25 cents, but we really look at every little penny because it goes right to the bottom line if that hardware is not needed. When it comes to software, the good news is Moore's Law is still working its way, and every year we get new chips at cheaper price and double or triple the CPU power, so we're able to offer a lot of new features. You'll see new browsers coming from DirecTV in the next year or so, and we have Pandora on our box. And we look at what's working out there, what supports our widest range of customers. One of the biggest challenges, I think, in the whole industry is a lot of these apps that are out there don't really belong on television, meaning some of them work much better on a tablet or a connected device than they work on TV. There are things like YouTube. Yeah, you want to watch it sometimes on TV, but if you want to browse and have a keyboard, none of the TVs out there have a really good keyboard experience just because your eyes are looking down and you're typing up there. Sure. Gesture is still not where it needs to be, and voice, it has its own challenges. I think 3 or 4 years from now, some of those technologies will make all those things easier. And, I think LG has been leading the way. One last comment. We still see companies as partners, not competitors, even though there is some overlap in the services and content they're offering. We have a thing called the RVU Alliance where you can get a DirecTV software stack in your television that gives you everything that you have on the set-top box and no need for a set-top box. It's just a piece of software. Samsung's rolling it out and other manufacturers will be announced at CES. But, that's just one way we cooperate. But we also sell together and offer discounts for people buying televisions, et cetera. So we're really not competing in the end. More people buy new TVs is another opportunity for us to sell DirecTV service when they're in the store, when they're buying it online, et cetera.
So I want one follow-up for you, and then I'm going to move on. But in a quick answer, is DirecTV better off in a world where you are just an app? In other words, you could be, hypothetically, let's just pretend you do deals with both Kurt and Chuck, so now, sometime from now, my LG TV, Smart TV comes with DirecTV as an option. I just go to the app, and if I pay for the service, there it is. Similarly, it's a new channel on a Roku box that, as long as I'm paying somewhere along the way, and however that's dealt with. Now you guys don't have to make boxes anymore, ship boxes, support boxes. Are you better off?
It's a great idea.
There's 2 or 3 different ways to look at it. I think, again, the cost of our lowest end boxes is very low today, so it's not that the cost of the hardware, we're making it back through a leasing fee or whatever. Not a big money maker, but it's, we don't lose money on every box. I think supporting all those different platforms and TVs is a challenge. So if there's one platform that truly ran everywhere, it would be an advantage. That said, DirecTV as a company doesn't want to be just another icon on the screen sitting next to Amazon, Netflix, and everything else, and people competing on the lowest price. So there's always that, if we were the input 1 and everyone else was on input 2 and 3, or whatever that is, that would be an ideal world. I think the MHL world where you plug into the back of the TV offers some of those capabilities. And these TV sets that have DirecTV built in, that's the way it works. We're actually logically a separate input on that television. So we keep ourselves a little bit separate from the lowest end of the market.
Got it. And each of your next questions, by the way, is just going to be a little prodding. So, I love you guys. But so, Kurt, one of the challenges I see that your company faces is if a consumer is having a choice between the next-gen Roku that does whatever the next-gen Roku will do, and it'll be smaller and awesomer, et cetera, which we all know is going to be somewhere in the $49 to $149 range, and we all know that somewhere 24 months from now will be obsolete, and I can buy a new one, which obviously you guys want me to do. How do you successfully pitch the no, buy the TV, which is upgradable to a point, but we all can say that there's no way you'll keep up with the pace of what a box could be doing. It's just not, How does that problem identify itself and get resolved?
So I think that's a good question. So I think, first of all, TVs, LG's shipping 35 million TVs a year, quite a few. And then you've got the cost of the TV, and there's a premium right now for smart TV of maybe $150, $200. That's going to keep coming down to $100, sub $100. So it'll be, again, it'll be in 90% of the TV. So at some point, it's a standard feature. So at that point, if you need a new TV for some other reason, because you want OLED, because it's 4 millimeters thick and it's ultra power, sensitive, or you want ultra high definition.
We want the OLEDs.
Right, yes, or ultra high definition. So the TV, the rest of the TV is continuing to innovate, as well as the smart TV stack on the TV. So we believe, still reason that people are going to buy TVs, regardless. But I think if you have an old TV that's, and again, the replacement cycle historically has been 7 to 10 years. We see that starting to drop. 7 to 5 years now for a replacement cycle. Most people buying an HD TV already have one. The vast majority of people already have one, so it's a second one. It goes in the main room goes to the second room, etc. But I think it's reasonable that if there's a feature that the box provides that the TV doesn't provide, then sure, buy a box. I think that makes sense.
Do you think we are likely in a world where people will end up, again, if it's at 90%, will people end up with a world where they have a smart TV and a smart box?
Again, I think one of the advantages the smart TV companies have is the volumes that we're shipping globally gives us a very rapid innovation cycle and many more R&D dollars to accelerate the features. So, TVs that ship this year have processing power of an iPad, dual core ARM processors. Next year, it'll be significantly better, and it's innovating every year much faster than a service provider can keep up with on a set-top box. So.
All right. So
that's true, but a lot of those features can be updated by shipping an iPad app that controls the television and gives you a lot of those benefits. Are obviously benefits to new hardware, whether it's gesture or voice built in. And that's why it's a constant war. The consumer wins. Where the consumer loses is my wife's got to figure out how to operate the TV and switch inputs, and each TV's got a different user interface. That's a lose-lose for everybody.
Fair enough.
And the last thing I would say is we do know consumers who just invested their $1,000 or $2,000 in their super thin TV and hung it on their wall. The vast majority don't want a box. So a stick is nice, a stick to hide in behind, but a DVR or a box to hang on the wall somewhere, they don't want that. So that's why I think our view and other multi-room solutions make a lot of sense. I think within 8 to 10 years, homes will have one set-top box, one Uber set-top box per home that has some storage, might have transcoding. Depending if you're coming from the cable world or satellite world, you might need one box in the home. But once you get into the home, use Wi-Fi, use Mocha, get around the home to all those other devices. You won't need more than one box.
All right. So Chuck, it's effectively the other end of that same question. It's in a world where I can just go to Best Buy.
In a world where they make 35 million TVs in a year.
Yeah. So, obviously, to me, now the plus for you, I'll get the softball version first, is that it's a pretty easy pitch. Hey, for only $100, you get the latest. You don't really care if it becomes obsolete in 2 years because you're willing to throw the $100 away. But in a world where I'm just about to make a $2,000 investment in the newest, thinnest, fastest, et cetera, with a dual core, whatchamacallit, where do you guys see you navigating the path?
Yeah. So when you make set-top boxes, in our case, we're in the $50 to $100 range. We have to iterate those pretty quickly to keep up. I think the same way Kurt's team would have to. So, generally speaking, we're updating our products every year. That does not include all the software updates and firmware updates that are launched, between 10 and 15 per year, which support the most current product line, but also past product lines. So there's no way around that. That's going to happen. Now, obviously, what we hope that means is that someone who's in the market for the latest feature that we've added to the latest product, that's a $50 to $100 decision as opposed to a $500 decision or more. I think there are a couple of other aspects of the decision. I guess in our world, in my world, people's decision processes around their entertainment systems are kind of inherently messy, meaning that I think there's a reason why DVRs never fully made it into televisions and or DVD players never really made it into televisions. It's because, in a way, there's, people's home entertainment systems kind of evolve organically. And that's where a set-top box really has an advantage. Now, there are definitely people who kind of swing for the fences as far as the perfect setup, the perfect experience in their home. But I think that's the exception rather than the rule. So, I think DirecTV is going to be distributing set-top boxes for a long time, and, I think we'll be selling set-top boxes for a long time. Now, we've clearly identified that connected TVs they're a big trend. There's no getting around it, and that's part of the reason why we've tried to sort of insert ourselves, so to speak, with, by developing this sort of adapter-type solution. I guess the last thing I'd point out is there's no substitute for great content. Sure. You can make the best possible product or experience or whatever, and if you don't have the top content on there, people just aren't going to use it. So we are, the only way we're going to survive is by offering the latest and best streaming services available on our platform.
So Netflix is number one. What are the next, again, if this is public, what are the next 5 most popular content sources on Roku?
Yeah, so it's Netflix and Pandora, Amazon Instant Video, Hulu Plus, not necessarily in this order.
Sure.
Crackle and HBO Go are all incredibly popular, and, depending on the month or the week, they'll sort of jockey for position. And then at that point, you get to a next tier of services which are maybe a little bit more for specific audiences. For example, an international service, say Indian language channel or
an expat kind of content.
Yeah, so that's one example. You'll get certain services which have a very specific following. I guess one that I'd point out is Glenn Beck TV. It's now called The Blaze. Glenn Beck, you can probably imagine, has a very passionate set of followers, and there aren't as many as there are Netflix subscribers, but the ones that are there, they're tuning into Glenn Beck pretty much 24 hours a day. So you can probably imagine.
Kurt, are you seeing different content patterns on your devices?
Very similar. One that Chuck didn't mention, probably just forgot it because I'm sure it's the same on Roku. YouTube, right? So YouTube very high on that list, but Netflix definitely number one. And then the one other thing on our TV. So people normally with their TV they use it for video or gaming. Look at the gaming console success. So gaming with a motion controller like some of the Roku boxes have, or that the LG TVs have, or our competitors. Super casual games, casual games, but then with the extra processing power can be pretty good. And then lastly, we're surprised at how much usage the browser gets. So we have a full WebKit browser on our TV with open internet access. Even 6 months after having a TV, more than half of the people, maybe more than 3/4 of the people are using their browser on their TV. We're astonished by that.
Can I ask?
I have a theory, but
Opportunity.
Do you know where they're going?
I don't think they're going to check their email.
No, sorry, that was not meant as an implicit question. Do you actually know?
We know, so yes, but
is it not intended and suitable for this particular audience?
Not safe for work.
Okay,
so yeah,
I think we should
going out to
question.
get other video on the internet.
Other video on the internet.
Free
I
video.
hear there is other video on the internet
Often
somewhere.
free. Yes.
Okay. Any burning questions from the audience? Because we got about 10 minutes to go, and so if there's a burning question, you get to shout it out, and I'll repeat it back.
I was just wondering what apps or other ideas you see coming out that you feel like cater to this. I mean, more than being just something ported from an iPad. What have you seen that's coming forward that you think will catch on?
All right. So just the whole question back is: are you guys seeing any apps that are a little different, that are catching on, or that you see coming down the pipe that you think will catch on? And anyone's free to jump on this.
I think so. Definitely multi-screen. So the devices around the home playing with the TV. So again, discovery or private searches or things are good on a pad or a smartphone. That you maybe don't want to disturb the TV experience or let the other people in the room know what you're doing if you're doing a tweet or an update. But when you do find what you want to do, being able to push it to the TV. So that's everyone. I think it's pretty common knowledge, and certainly recommendation and discovery are tied into that, trying to navigate this zillion pieces of content. Yeah.
There's a good app for that.
I heard that.
I heard there's one app.
I think in the future it'll be easier to move your content. You'll come home, you may have been watching it on the train and flip it to the TV or continue watching it. Still, there's content is fragmented. Some things we have streaming rights in the home, some things we have streaming rights out of the home. As those things get sorted out over the next few years, you'll start to see that multi-screen and all things work in concert with each other.
Yeah. Right. So if I can just add, it was interesting, seeing the presentation this morning. And there's a lot of conversation around, transferring the experience of watching or streaming from one platform to another, kind of following you around during the day and stuff like that. And I don't know, maybe we're just backwards, but we have kind of a mainstream, middle-aged customer base for the most part, and what we've been trying to do is mainly bolt features or ideas around that TV experience. So, for example, we've got an app, and you can use it like a remote, and now you can take your photos from your phone and project them onto the television, and or play music from your phone or television, things like that. But what we haven't been really focused on is making that experience transportable, so to speak, and that's because so many of our partners already do that. I mean, Netflix has apps on all these different platforms, and Crackle does, and Hulu does, and so on. So it's not to say that people won't eventually get there. I'm sure especially younger generations of customers, are going to be much more fluent in that way. But I guess for now, we see our sweet spot as being simply trying to enhance that TV experience.
Sure. It's funny. I see this is one of those demos that's been around for a while. Is you start the video on one device and then you just decide, I'm going to go finish watching this in the bedroom. I mean, I've seen commercials for that. In fact, I even built a product with Denon to do that a decade ago. And I've yet to see people really want to.
I think you're missing the boat because, again, not pushing DirecTV. Cable operators offer the same thing now. You can pause and resume, finish watch. It's not that you're moving it around all the time, but, you get tired at night, you're about to go to bed, or you go continue watching it. And today, all the major multi-room DVRs do that today. I think what's missing is...
but all smaller TVs contain Twitter clients. I don't think people are using those.
No, but that's why people are paying us an extra $3 to $5. I don't know what the latest price is for multi-room viewing. They're not paying extra money. They're not, our customers we don't give it away for free. We don't even give a free trial today. So that people are paying for that and see the value in that.
I get it. It's a feature that sounds great. My statement is I think we, as technologists that are pushing technology into consumers' hands, have a tendency to think of things people might want to do, build it, charge for it, and yet to see some.
I think, again, it's the experience. You pause, and just when you resume, it just resumes wherever it doesn't know where you are. It's not that intelligent.
It sounds great.
No, but I'm saying that's why I think it took off, because there's no learning curve there. All you have to know that it's there.
So are people using it?
Yes.
In droves? Is it a very
I don't know the exact number again, but
well,
the next conference I'll be happy to get you numbers.
You and I actually agree a lot on usage behavior patterns. So it's not that I don't think people would ever do it. It's that I have a hard time believing it's a mainstay. And I think the one you just...
I think it's so much... The other thing that they use it for is to be able to watch it from another room, because, again, having the disc in one place and having the rest of the content all over the home accessible is what people are really looking for. How much they move it, obviously, you maybe move it once a day, but you may watch things from another DVR or from another thing all day long. So I think it's missing the last...
I was going to say we have a similar feature in 2012 TVs that the TV itself, if you want to leave the room to go to get a beverage or do something in another room and the Super Bowl's on, you can take your iPad and the TV will transcode the video and send it with you, and so you can go around the home. But I wouldn't say this is one of our top features, as you expected. So not a lot of people are using it. The capabilities there. I think the important thing, at least from the retail consumer electronics side, is that we have APIs and software development kits that let developers, play with the platform and come up with the next killer app, right? Angry Birds, someone developed Rovio or whoever developed it one day and it then became a killer app. Right. But if you don't have the open platforms that are available for innovation from around the world, then you might miss the next killer app.
So we have about 5 minutes, just one sec before I come to you. I want to hit 3 companies. Is your question a quickie? Because I could easily take up the last 5 minutes with mine. So is it a quick question?
Yeah. It's just actually a question for Kurt. How fast are people replenishing their HD TV sets? I mean, if I bought one 4 years ago, am I a person that's going to, get the newest, latest smart TV, considering it took, probably my father 25 years to change his original TV, which then seems to make the case for something like a set-top box?
For the last few years, it's been 7 to 10 years. But again, there was a massive replacement cycle when HD TVs showed up, flat panels in the first place. Now we do see it dropping from 7 down to 5. The costs are coming down. People do want to they've seen the difference of what HD is. So that old tube TV in the second room, they really would like to get rid of that. And so as soon as you give them any little reason, price sale on Black Friday or OLED or new 3D, whatever. So I'd say 5 to 7 years.
So it was a good question. Thank you. And by the way, I would caution you as I think you're going to see a blip of a short term, and then it's going to go to a much slower cycle because there's not a TV technology on the horizon that I think will push people back into Best Buys right now. 3D didn't do it. I don't think Connected is pushing people to the stores. They're certainly requesting when it's time to go up, and 4K is not going to do it, right? It's like every study so far has shown. Has anyone here seen 4K demos? Is anybody here ready to just they feel like they have to have it?
Depends on the price. When the price comes down,
yeah.
$20,000. I don't think there's anyone in the room who can afford it.
The problem is it's not the same. It's not the same cultural zeitgeist where you went from being embarrassed about having this TV to this TV, and then it's going to get OLED's much thinner. It's beautiful, but none of these things are going to push consumers yet. We're going to need to see the next sea change. So my only statement to you is I don't know if I can bank on that 5 to 7 for too long. So, monkey in the room topic. 3 companies. Google, Microsoft, and Apple. So we've seen Google play their hand, and I would say play it poorly. And let's just say that they're probably going to keep doing that for a little while. Microsoft's been, not media room, Microsoft Xbox, 40 million homes have connected Xboxes. And Apple's sitting somewhere in the 5 to 6 million connected Apple TVs.
Worldwide.
Right. Where do each of these 3 become interesting? is there going to be an Xbox client for DirecTV? I'm going to ask each of you to comment on each of the three companies, please. And David, you can start because I think you're
again, this is my personal opinion, not the company opinion. I think Google has a big opportunity to be the standard smarts of these televisions, not in hardware, it's providing a standard platform, whether they'll get a good enough experience to get there. The jury is still out, like Jeremy said. As far as Apple, so far, it's been a toy. I still don't believe in the short term that they're going to have a television per se. I think they're more likely to have something in their Apple TV set-top box or a tablet that can change the entertainment experience. Again, just going back to the last comment, I know I'm not trying to change the subject like a politician, it's just related here. I think what's missing is having your preferences go around the house, not you. If I'm a Mets fan or I'm a Jets fan, my TV or my phone, everything should know that. When I search for things, it should find it. Today, nobody's doing a good job of that across all content and all platforms, and that's an opportunity that somebody like an Apple can take advantage of. Microsoft, I think part of the problem right now is the Xbox is near the end of its life cycle. Not that people are throwing them away, but they're going to upgrade to a new console in a year. I heard a rumor at the last conference that they'll have a cable tuner built in, which would definitely be a big change in that seascape. I think the one that Jeremy missed that's launching in 2 weeks is Nintendo is taking a very interesting approach with their new console. They're having this little wireless like tablet, for lack of a better word, controller that you can control television with it, find programs. You have all the Amazon, the Netflix, the content TiVo on there, and that may be, and a second screen experience to boot that's designed for the average customer, not the hipster 20-year-old tweeting all over, but people following the show, and they may have a big opportunity to catch some of that market if they're successful.
Yeah, I didn't forget them. I just don't think they'll be successful.
So I think Google TV is started off poorly, is continuing to improve and iterate, and they have lots of dollars to fund that. They're being adopted by more TVs. They're launching even some service provider set-top boxes recently in Korea. So I think Google TV could be successful.
How many of the models you ship, Kurt? How many of them have Google TV?
Of your
smart TVs.
Right. So worldwide, 250 SKUs, quite a few for TVs. North America, about 25. 2 of them are Google TVs in North America.
Okay.
So you're doing Google TV and your own platform?
Yeah, so LG's homegrown platform's called Netcast, and then Google TV is 2 models.
But you haven't abandoned Netcast in 2013. Netcast is getting an improvement.
That's right.
Okay.
We're always improving.
All right.
Apple, the best thing they've got is the ecosystem, the closed ecosystem, and AirPlay, which is a phenomenal piece. But I don't think they're going to do something massive until they get a content deal breakthrough. And then on the Microsoft Xbox side, I'm a little bit skeptical about another console generation, even the costs of all that compared to the whole Xbox Live play. So I'm not sure what's going to happen with Microsoft on the Xbox side.
So before I talk about the 3 brands that you asked about, which are 3 amazing brands,
That was so polite.
well, they're, it's like, who would you rather compete against, Apple, Microsoft, or Google? I don't know. There is this interesting phenomenon of, television manufacturers, and we've been talking to a lot of television manufacturers, and they're kind of weighing the platform that they want to choose, or maybe in some cases they're kind of spreading their bets. So, just like LG, Samsung has their own smart TV platform, but then they're also doing Google TV boxes, and Sony has supported several different platforms in the past. And, we've been approaching, I guess, the next tier down of television manufacturers, the brands that really are they're not going to develop a homegrown solution, but they ship a lot of volume. I mean, when you see $200 televisions in Walmart, they're going to move a lot of them, and they may not be a brand you've ever heard of, but they're going to be in people's homes for 5 to 10 years. People just don't throw these things away. So all those televisions need a platform, and part of the reason we got into the whole streaming stick idea was to argue that we could make it very easy for those TVs to offer a platform. When you get to Apple and Microsoft and Google, it's hard for me to speculate on them. I think it's confusing to me that the first couple of iterations of Google TV have not been, great. They haven't been reviewed that well. They certainly haven't sold many of them. But you just can't take a company like Google for granted. I'm sure they will, just like with phones, they'll just get better and better, and I'm sure they'll be approaching all the same television manufacturers, to adopt their experience. I guess for all three of these brands, one of the things I would look for is which one cultivates the right sort of relationships with entertainment companies. And I think that makes a big difference. If people are justifiably wary of a major company coming in and really changing the industry dynamics of the entertainment industry, which is a very big, profitable industry. And we actually recently got around to funding from a couple of strategic partners. One of them is News Corp, and the other is B-Sky-B. And so that's certainly helped us to kind of understand the industry's point of view on how they think about platforms, and hopefully they feel like they've got a bit of a stake in us.
Cool. My
was
virtual
gonna say-
bell's ringing. So
I was going to say one thing about Xbox, because I didn't say anything, right?
Please.
I kind of abstained. I just said with the cloud and with connectivity to the home continuing to grow, and I've bet against bandwidth before and lost. Cloud gaming is, again, another competitor or an alternate delivery mechanism without necessarily a new console. Right?
Well, last time, I think there's going to be a low-end stick at this year's CES. There's a bunch of Taiwanese manufacturers coming online. The question is, will they have a good enough user experience to compete or not? That's where, it's up to, I don't think it's hardware, it's the software.
Someone handed me a stick last week at Telco TV, $35.
yeah.
There's a
And
Dune
as,
TV,
as,
a
we,
bunch of
as we all know, Chinese and Taiwanese ODMs are very good at user experience. All right, great panel. Thank you very much, guys. And everybody's free to grab a lunch. Thank you very much for being a good audience.
Yeah.